The following is a special presentation of the First Horizon Green Sports Zone. This is the Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show.
Welcome back to First Horizon's Green Sports Zone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show, where we cover everything inside of Burley Stadium with the Greeneville Greeneville football team. We'll talk about this past week's historic win over Elizabethton to crown the Greeneville Green Devils Region 4A champions for the 5th straight season, and we'll talk about this week's upcoming game against Knox Carter in the first round of the TSSAA Class 4A playoffs. But as always, we need to get a quick billboard spot in first, so we'll be right back after these quick messages to discuss both of those things here on First Horizon's Green Sports Zone.
The Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show is brought to you by Gateway Ford Nissan, Tommy's Plumbing, by Pizza Inn, and by First Horizon Bank.
Here's a twist on your typical banking options. What if instead of choosing between a big bank or a small bank, you had one bank that's the best of both? That's First Horizon. Big bank muscle with small bank hustle. Big bank convenience and small bank connection. When the best of big meets the best of small, you get it all. To help you on the road to your horizon. First Horizon Bank.
Welcome back to First Horizon's Green Sports Zone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show, where we cover everything inside of beautiful Burley Stadium with the Green Devil football team. As always, I'm joined here with Greeneville head coach Eddie Spradlen. Coach, how are we doing this week?
Good, man. You?
I'm doing well. I'm sure you're doing a whole lot better than most weeks, too. Region 1 4A champions for the 5th straight season now after a dominant 48-7 win over Elizabethton. No other words to say. Let's just jump right into it. Region champs 5 years in a row. How are you feeling at the moment?
Really good. Excited for this football team. Obviously that's a big thing. To win 5 in a row is really good. But, we enjoyed it this weekend. Today we're going to start working on Carter and move on from there. But really happy for how those guys performed on Friday or Thursday night.
Yeah, it was weird. It'll be weird going back and saying Thursday, yeah. But let's talk about how satisfying it was, too, because not only do you beat your biggest rival in the region championship game, but beating them the way that you did, it was the largest margin of victory over Elizabethton, tied with 2010's margin of victory that also goes back to 1925's margin of victory. You have 48 yards and a half, which is the most in a half versus Elizabethton, over 400 yards in the first half, and you get a huge 48-7 win. How satisfying was it to walk off the field Friday night knowing that all of that preparation was put to use on Friday or Thursday? See,
it was a really satisfying feeling for sure. Obviously what this game is, you can go back and you're talking about stats from 1927. So this is one of the longest rival football games in the state of Tennessee, and it means a lot to everybody in both communities. And when you can come out and score 48 points in the first half against a good football team, it says a lot about how well our kids were prepared and how hard our kids played on Thursday night.
Yeah, see, I even messed it up and said Friday night twice right there before I caught myself. But the most important part, too, not only are you region champions now for the 5th straight year, but arguably the most important part of this game was clinching home field advantage throughout the playoffs now. So the playoffs now run through Burley. We'll talk about the playoffs more in the back half and how the bracket looks, but just talking about the fact that you're now at home all the way until potentially the state championship game. How key is that for you to be able to clinch that?
It's big time. You get in those years where you can host all those. You want to be the Region 1 champs, and we took care of that. Now we got an opportunity. If we can keep on winning, we can play here 4 times. Anytime you can play at Burley Stadium, it's got to be a home field advantage for people. But excited for our opportunity where we're at, but still got to go to work and continue to get better.
I've got a lot of stats to read off. There were a lot of stats in this game to read off, but I'm going to let you choose first. You had 469 total yards of offense, 232 passing, and 237 rushing. So just about as balanced as you can get. And you only allowed 202 yards on the night and held their starting unit to under 100 in the first half. So what do you want to do this week? Defense or offense first?
Well, everybody wants to talk about offense.
Everybody does. So we'll touch on that first. You can't start out without talking about Caden Ball, the senior leader. Plays his senior night terrific, 90% passing completion, 9 for 10, 208 passing with 3 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing, 127 yards and a touchdown. Talk about how well he played on his senior night.
Yeah, I challenged all those seniors before the game, and it'll be a night you'll always remember, and you want to make the most of it and have it a special memory. And I think it was Coach Hansel was talking about, after the game on Friday or Thursday night, I want you guys to smile, enjoy it. And I think they did that, and it starts with how good Caden played, threw the football really well. As well, he ran the ball really good on Thursday night.
See, I think I said Friday night again before that. We need to I need to put a ticker on here that says every time we mess up and say Friday night and see what we can get up to. But those 3 touchdowns found 3 different receivers. That's something that we've seen him do a lot this year, finding different targets out there. One being Zayden Anderson, another being Taryn Clarity, and then another being Cole Franklin. Cole started it with that huge 80-yard receiving touchdown. How important was it to start off with a bang like that on the first possession of the game and go 80 yards into the end zone?
They won the toss and wanted to defer to the second half, and I was joking that's probably one of the times that we were going to defer and put a young quarterback in a tough situation to start the game. But we got the football. Caden kept it the first play of the game, and he got tackled for a loss. Then we threw it out there, and Taryn made a great block, and you see Zay coming across the field to make another good block. And Cole, we talked about him last week. He's playing as good a football he's played in his career here, and he's got to continue that. But he was down that sideline and took a long one to the house. So it was a really good way to start offensively and just set the tempo for the game. And it started up front. I felt like if we handed the football off on that first one, it probably would have been a touchdown. Our offensive line really came off the ball, and they really played really good football up front.
And you started with a touchdown from Cole, and you ended with a touchdown from Taryn. Taryn got the last touchdown of the first half to put you up 48-0. Going into the half, it was a 29-yard receiving touchdown, and his total stats on the night were 4 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. And you need a big game like that from a player outside of Zayden, because whenever you play a team like Elizabethton, it's very familiar with you. Region competition, arguably your biggest rivals, they're going to really zone in and key in on Zayden. So how important was it for Taryn to have a game like that?
It's big for him to have a big game because, like you said, people going to try to double Zay and put somebody over top of him really deep. So it's going to open stuff up for other players to make big plays. And when they get their opportunity, they got for us to continue to be successful. They've got to make those plays. And, we got a situation where we got a 2-minute offense that we need to work. And, we got the ball with under 2 minutes there. We had to go about 80 yards and did a really good job getting it in the end zone with a big throw and catch by Caden to Taryn to end that half.
And you can only contain Zayden so much. He didn't explode for the games that we've seen from him in past weeks, but he still had 3 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. He had a 55-yard receiving touchdown that put you up 34-0. And a little stat also that I want to throw out here is he's the first Greeneville receiver to reach 1,000 yards since Dorian Goddard back in 2018. So it's been 7 years since we've seen a receiver here at Greeneville pass the 1,000-yard threshold. So how special is that to just add another accolade like that to this terrific season?
Yeah, he's had a big-time year, and for him to get over 1,000 yards, and Caden, I believe he got over 2,000 yards a couple of weeks ago, or 3,000 yards passing, wasn't it? Or 2,000 this year, 2,000. I guess for his career was 3,000. But for us to be able to do all those things with these guys. And those kids, they've never said one word about some record to me or anybody said it. So, it's the ultimate team for this team, which is really good.
And he's had so many accolades this year, too. We talk about the one this week of having the honor of being the first receiver with 1,000 yards since Dorian 7 years ago. Sets the record for most receiving yards in a game. The same game sets the record for most receiving touchdowns in a game. And then going back to Caden being the quarterback for all of it, he's helping set records for other receivers too, with Taryn having the longest touchdown reception in Greeneville history. So the past few years, we've seen Greeneville lean heavily on the rushing department, and still have, seeing that you have 237 rushing. You still have more rushing than passing. But how cool is it seeing so many passing records fall this year?
Yeah, special year for sure, throwing the football. You got a lot of, we talked about, I don't like to compare receivers to receivers, but that group's really talented, as talented as any group that we've had out there. So special group, and what makes that group special, and all the other ones, those, they're unselfish, not getting, like you said, Zay had 3 balls the other night, and big time player, but spreading the football out, let other guys make plays, and you don't hear him complaining about not getting the football enough. So that means a lot, and it'll continue for us to be successful in the playoffs. We got to be able to spread that football around, but when those guys get an opportunity, they got to make some big time plays.
And then in the rushing department, outside of Caden's rushing touchdown, you had 2 more rushing touchdowns. Maddox Bishop had a 21-yard rushing touchdown to put you up 13-0. He had 6 rushes, 44 yards, and a touchdown. And Tegan Begley had a rushing touchdown to put you up 41-0. So just like passing, you're spreading the ball out through the trenches and on the ground. So how cool was it to see those players get into the end zone?
Really good. And if you've not seen Maddox's run, it's well worth watching for that touchdown run. He broke some tackles, had a spin move there, and got in the end zone. He ran the ball really hard the other night. There's a couple times that he's got 4 or 5 guys trying to get him down. He's continuing to get yards, and Tegan got some carries in there. Same thing, run the ball really hard, gets in the end zone, run somebody over there, which is really big. Jude Dyer, we let him just play defense because he had a little banged up shoulder. Rest him on offense to try to keep him healthy for the playoffs.
And then let's go on to the defensive side a little bit. First thing I've got to touch on defense, Kane Ricker, another big play in the secondary, 54-yard pick 6 to effectively put the game away in the first half. It only puts you up 27-0, but whenever you're up 27 points on a team, it's really hard to come back after that. And to have a statement play like that on defense to put you up by that much early into the game, how important was that play?
Yeah, it was big. Kane's had a really big year in the secondary for us. I think that was interception number 5. He's 2 other times he about gets in the end zone, but he don't get in there. It's nice to see him get in there. But yeah, talk about breaking somebody's back right there. That play set us over the top, and we had a quick score before that. Then we were able to get that and get in the end zone. It was really big for our football team.
Yeah, momentum changing play for sure, and just a momentum changer in general on the field on Friday night. We already mentioned him on the offensive side of the ball, but Tegan, what a great night defensively. Maybe the best night that he's had in a Greeneville uniform so far this year. He stuffed the stat sheet in every column. 5 tackles, 3 assists, an interception, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a pass breakup. He was everywhere. He wasn't just in the backfield. He wasn't just making tackles in open field, but he was also deflecting passes, taking away passes. What can you say about the game that Tegan had on Friday or Thursday night? See, I'm still doing it.
Yeah, like you said, it was his best performance of the year, and I challenged him. He probably could have been our player of the week last week against Granger County. He had another big game then defensively, but I challenged him, and I told him, "You want to be player of the week? I need you to be at this week in a big time game." And he's a big time player, and he stepped up and had his best game of the season.
And then let's talk about another player that we've talked about many times this year, and that's Jack Lister. He also stuffed the stat sheet and had almost a stat in every column. 3 tackles with an assist, a tackle for loss, a pass breakup, and a QB pressure. He's been a player that you talked about early on in the season, needed to step up in that role at linebacker, and he did so in arguably the most important game of the season.
Yeah, he's a leader on our defensive football team right now, gets us lined up, gets all our calls in, gets it to the players, and so he's playing really good football. And, he's another kid that we set him out against Granger because, he's banged up a little with another shoulder. Play a physical season schedule like we've played. You're going to be banged up, so able to rest him, which is good for him, and he came out there and played really good football on his game back.
And then the last defensive stud that I have to talk about is Zorian Harris. He had 2 tackles for loss. It's nice to get in the backfield that much. We're talking about every defensive player seemingly having a tackle for loss, and it's big in a region championship game like that. Zorian's been a name that we've talked about many times this year. How happy were you with how he played in the region championship?
Yeah, he's a big time. He obviously starts both ways for us, but he's a big time defensive player for us, and you got to be one of the top defensive linemen around. And he's athletic, big. He's 290 pounds, can move, super strong. So he's hard to deal with, and he's playing really hard. You see him making tackles where he's running down the field or down the line of scrimmage to help try to make stop a screen pass. But he's playing a really good football.
Luckily now we get to move on, and I don't have to confuse Friday with Thursday anymore.
Yeah.
No more Thursday night games for the foreseeable future. You've got Carter this upcoming Friday night here at Burley Stadium in your first round game of the Class 4A playoffs. We'll talk about that in just a moment, though. We need to take a quick break first, so don't go anywhere. We'll talk about that first game here in just a minute here on First Horizon's Greene Sports Zone.
Here's a twist on your typical banking options. What if instead of choosing between a big bank or a small bank, you had one bank that's the best of both? That's First Horizon. Big bank muscle with small bank hustle. Big bank convenience and small bank connection. When the best of big meets the best of small, you get it all. To help you on the road to your horizon. First Horizon Bank.
Pizza Inn presents I Ate at Pizza Inn. I ate pizza at Pizza Inn. I ate a salad at Pizza Inn.
I ate pizza!
I ate it all.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I'm inviting you to come and enjoy Greeneville's favorite hometown pizza, pasta, salad, and dessert buffet for just $8 all day, Monday through Friday. And then you can say,
"We all ate at Pizza Inn."
Tommy's Plumbing has been in business for 30 years, and we're still growing because we treat our customers like family. We are proud to do any job from kitchen faucet installation to a complete home repipe. Tommy's Plumbing offers warranties on most products installed by our technicians. When the job is done, our friendly professionals make sure to clean up. We invite you to visit our new showroom in Jonesboro to see our quality products for yourself. Tommy's is the only one to call when you need a fast, reliable, professional plumber in the Tri-Cities.
At many dealerships, you get what you'd expect. Games, gimmicks, and shady sales tactics. At Gateway Nissan in Greeneville, expect the unexpected. Low prices, convenient service, and a great buying experience.
Get our Gateway exclusive lifetime powertrain warranty.
No worries for life.
You deserve the unexpected. It's the #1 reason you gotta get to Gateway.
Shop online at gatewaynissangreeneville.com.
Or take the super short drive down Highway 11E to Gateway Nissan in Greeneville.
Welcome back to First Horizon's Greene Sports Zone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Pizza and Eddie Spradlen Show, where we cover everything inside of Burley Stadium with the Greeneville Green Devil football team. As always, joined here with Green Devils head coach Eddie Spradlen. So once again, for the 5th straight year now, you're the 1 seed going into the Class 4A playoffs now. You'll open it up here at Burley Stadium once again. First round, you've got Knox Carter now. It's a team that came in here last year that you defeated and ended their season. It's a team that you get again here in Burley Stadium. So whenever you kick off on Friday night, not Thursday night, Friday night, what can you expect when the Hornets travel up here?
A really good football team. They're a 6-4 team. Lost a 3-point game. They're a Grace Christian team early in the year. That's a really good team that obviously beat Sevier County. And then they got beaten 3-point game by Gibbs on Friday night. So, I think they might have played on Thursday too last week. So,
see, we're still getting confused.
Yeah, messed it up too. But really good team. Plays. They throw the football around and got a really good quarterback that throws as good a football as anybody we've seen, and got a really good running back that plays, runs the football really hard. And they put him out at receiver, running back. Just he got to get the ball to him. Really good football team. It's not your typical round 1 game. I'll put it that way for us. We played them last year in round 1, and I think they were even 5-5, 4-6, something like that coming in. But add an Alcoa to that region.
Yeah,
then you add a Heritage to that region coming down from 5A. So there's some really good football teams in that region that had really good years that are not playing in the playoffs with the 8-team region. So That's normal. Probably this is a team that's probably normally really a third round or a third place team in that region, but just adding Alcoa into that, they end up the 4th seed. But it's going to be a tough matchup, but a matchup that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, it's another detail of Alcoa coming up and being added to that region now, is it kind of makes things a lot more interesting, I would say, because you get teams like that would normally be good 3 seeds that now get pushed back to good 4 seeds that make the playoffs a lot harder. People don't think of it that way. They just think Alcoa comes up and, well, it's going to be harder to get through Alcoa now, but you don't think about how Alcoa makes the competition in the playoffs better, because your normal 3s are now your good 4s, and some of your good 4s are now not even making the playoffs. So do you expect it to be a tougher first round matchup than previous seasons, with that being the case?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like I said, they're could easily be sitting there at 8-2 as a 3 seed. So gonna be a big time challenge for us. But like I said, something that we're looking forward to, and you want to continue playing, you got to win these. So.
Absolutely. And when you get down to this part of the season, you've got 32 teams left, and my favorite saying when it comes postseason time, at this point, everybody's good.
Yeah.
You're not going to have an easy game. You're not going to have a game that you can just swiftly cruise through to the finish line. You're going to have a tough game in every game from here on out. But let's talk about Carter offensively and defensively a little bit. What do you expect to see on both sides of the ball when you line up on Friday?
Another thing, you talk about the playoffs, not anything easy. 4A, you look at the different brackets from 3, 4, 5, and 6A in football. 4A is as tough as
4A is probably going to be.
So, especially on our side of the state,
yes.
You got Upperman, White County's really good, Stone Memorial's really good, then obviously Anderson County and Alcoa. So, it's going to be a tough road for whoever makes it through on this side of the state regardless. But hopefully it's the Green Devils, at the end of the day. But be a tough road for us for sure. But Carter's going to come in here. That you've watched different games, you get kind of different themes. Up into Friday this past week, I figured they're throwing it every time. Last year they come in here. I don't know if they ran it one time about it. Just felt like they were throwing it every down, and you saw a lot of that throughout the season. Just watching some film, and then get their game from this past Thursday. It's a lot of more running the football and putting their best player back there at running back and just letting him try to make something happen. Got a good offensive line, but they got good receivers out there to get the ball to. But 2 main dudes running the football, so big challenge with them. Defensively, there are going to be multiple fronts. Coach Crawford was in there talking earlier today that that 8 to 10 different fronts on defense. They're just doing a lot of different things to try to make sure we're prepared as we can be. So be a good challenge for us. Play hard, run around, try to make plays defensively.
Hey, speaking of him, we say his name and he appears.
Oh yeah, get him on TV over here.
No interest. But going into Carter on Friday night, we'll talk about the bracket a little bit after this question, but I've got to get this question out of the way. It's a question that I ask at the end of every preview. You've got 3 keys of the game this Friday night against Carter in your first round matchup, the Class 4A playoffs. What are they?
It's got to start offensively with us, and the offense has carried us all year. You talked about one of the most explosive offenses in the history of Greeneville during the regular season. So, we've scored a lot of points, but it started up front, and we've got to continue to win the line of scrimmage. We got to, in these type games, we got to rely on that offensive line to be able to run the football and give us great protection. So we got to have great protection up front and lean on those guys. Key number 2, we can't turn the football over. We've done a really good job throughout the season. We've thrown 1 interception, about probably 1 fumble or 2, we're not turned it over many times all year. So we got to continue doing that. And then the third key, with them, we can't give up deep balls. They get, in situations or get down, they start trying to challenge you deep. So we can't give up deep balls in games like this, because you give up a deep ball, it can change the game real quick. So we got to be great coverage against them. And then I'll say a 4th key, we got to continue to be good in special teams. For us, they're going to onside it. They're going to go for it on 4th down. So that they about onside it about every time. So you got to make sure that you're ready for all that, which is got to be big for us getting the football every time. We can't let them score and then kick onside and get it back in a game like this that matters. So we got to be really good in special teams.
Let's look at the bracket a little bit also. Like you said, it's going to be a gauntlet going through this side of Tennessee. You've got Knox Carter on your side that you open up the Class 4A playoffs with, and then looking at it past that, you've got a potential second-round matchup with either Hickson or White County. Below that, Anderson County being the number 1 seed in Region 2, which happened on Friday night with that big win over Alcoa. They host Volunteer, the 4 in your region. And then opposite of that, you've got Stowe Memorial and Loudon. So, like you said, no easy games right there because you've got Anderson County in your region or in your same bracket. And then next week you would get Hickson County or White County. Opposite of that, you've got Elizabethton, Gibbs, Upperman, Signal Mountain, Alcoa, Cherokee. So you've got a lot of talented teams that have been ranked inside of the top 10 throughout the Class 4A playoffs this year. So whenever the bracket was released on Friday night, what were your initial thoughts on it?
It's going to be tough. It's a tough road for whoever makes it out in 4A on the east side. But we got to focus on Carter this week. We want to be 1-0 each week. But, like you said, you could win that game, play the winner of Hickson and White County. Up until Upperman, which was 2 weeks ago, White County ain't gave up more than 2 touchdowns a game. So that says a lot.
Yeah.
And they played a really tough schedule. So it says a lot about the competition in this league. And, they're the 3 seed coming out of that region. So it's going to be a real challenge. For, like I said, for whoever comes out of the east side, but big challenge for the Green Devils for sure.
And I'll have that bracket up on screen so everybody can look at it and not try to formulate the bracket in your mind just hearing what I was saying. But the playoffs are here. It's the most exciting time of the season. It's what you play the first 11 weeks for, and it's here upon us now. So the last question I have, 1 to 10, what's your excitement level?
Yeah, it's got to be a 10. If I'm not, something's wrong. I got to get it up there, and I've got to bring my energy. That's one thing that's not like with this football team. I challenge them to play with a lot of energy, and they're doing that. You got to be excited to play this game if you're going to be successful, and they're playing that way right now. And we got to continue that from week to week in the playoffs.
And now you're 5 games away from a state championship, 4 away from going to the state championship games. So it's 1 by 1 now. I look up here on the whiteboard that we have up here in the media room, the Green Devil Standard, and today is the only thing that matters. Take it day by day, and we'll see what happens and how it shakes out. But like you said, right now the only thing you've got in front of you is Carter, and the rest will take care of itself. So best of luck on Friday night.
Appreciate it, man. Go Devils.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you all for watching this week's edition of the Pizza and Eddie Spradlen Show here on First Horizon's Green Sports Zone.